Hi, this is Denise Mathew, and today we're going to delve into a topic where few dare to tread. And even though it might scare us, it's a space where when we learn how we operate at a deep level, we can see the areas in our lives where we've been holding ourselves back. And that place is the fear gates of human design. I had originally planned to have this as a series, but then I reconsidered and thought that it would be better just to have that information out there, and I'll leave some timestamps so you can pick out certain places if you want to go, or if you want to watch the whole thing, be my guest. So let's get into it and talk about the fear gates of human design. Whether we want to believe it or not, fear is everywhere in our lives and society. There are common fears like the fear of failure and also stress about what the future will bring. There are less common fears like the fear of flowers, puppets, and even the fear of hands. And when a fear becomes so deeply ingrained and persistent in our being that it begins to affect our lives, to the point of being paralyzed by fear, it's then called a phobia. By definition, fear is a feeling brought on by a perceived danger, or a threat that causes a change in metabolic and organ functions, and ultimately a response. Our responses to fear can be fleeing, fighting, hiding, or in extreme cases, freezing. The whole deer caught in the headlights concept. Our fears can be in response to a certain stimulus or in an expectation of a future event that is perceived as threatening. Some fears are considered to be rational, while others are considered irrational. Anxiety in response to someone running toward you with a gun can be considered rational, while fear that you might die if you make a mistake on an exam might be considered an irrational fear. When we're in a true state of fear, our bodies can respond by hyperventilating, increasing our heart rates, increased muscle tension, goosebumps, nausea, sweating, and more. And as well as our own personal fears, entertainment that invokes fear is big business. A business that has actually had a decided increase in the last few years. So we even paid to be scared. Some people say that scary movies are a way to escape our realities and inner fears, for a few hours at least. Others see it as entertainment that exceeds the stimulation that we are inundated with on a daily basis. So a horror movie that's scarier than the media that is predicting catastrophic events in the world might be exactly what some people need. Fear can also be a motivator, so it's not unexpected that it's used politically and culturally to manipulate and persuade people to follow a particular leader. Some of these leaders are so vehement in their rhetoric that they will literally invoke the fear that if in fact the people don't buy into what they're saying, that there will be potential that the people could actually die, which is in fact one of the top fears of we as a population. And if the fears that are incited are powerful enough, there's potential for people to do and say things that they never would have without the impetus of fear added to the equation. Some use fear as a method of motivation in sports. By stoking the fear of failure, the theory is that people will perform better because the pressure of their fear pushes them harder to achieve. From an evolutionary perspective, fears were important for survival. Knowing that an animal was dangerous and could attack and even kill somebody was instrumental for people to continue on in life despite the challenges that they met every day. So fear definitely has its place in our lives, but how much fear is needed is a key question. And knowing what a genuine fear in our lives is and what is irrational can be the best information that we discover about ourselves. So it stands to reason that understanding the fears that hold us back or stop us from doing something that could potentially improve our lives can be information that quite literally can change our lives, as well as our health, since being in a chronic state of fear can increase cortisol, cause sleep issues, give us ulcers, and eventually burn us out. And that's where human design comes into the equation, because there are 64 gates in human design, 7 of which located in the spleen have everything to do with most of the common and pervasive fears of humanity. In human design, the spleen is considered a center of instinct, intuition, health, survival, and time. Because survival can sometimes be about making decisions quickly and in the moment to save yourself, when we talk about the spleen, we talk about it being the energy of the now. As I just said, there are other themes contained in the spleen, but for today, we're just going to talk about the fear and survival aspects of the spleen, and we'll leave the other topics for another day. There are 2 ways that the spleen can present itself in human design. One is open or undefined, and the other is closed or defined. So when we talk about a defined spleen, we're talking about when there's a complete channel or two gates that connect one center to another. And when it's defined, it will always show up as brown in the human design chart, as you can see here. Alternately, when we talk about an undefined spleen, we're talking about the spleen not being connected to another center by a complete channel. So there can be what's called defined gates or hanging gates, but none of them make it to another center, and this will always show up as a white triangle in the body graph. While anyone with a defined or undefined spleen can experience their defined gates as fears, there are a few subtle differences in how the energy works. Because the nature of an open center in human design is that the energy of the center is more fluid and not fixed and is dependent on the people around you, the fears for someone with an undefined spleen can be stronger or more pervasive. And that's because the theory is that people with undefined centers absorb the energy from those around them, but not only do they absorb the energy, they amplify it as well. So in the case of a spleen that's open, there would be an amplification of the fears that are defined in the spleen, or an amplification of the fear gates that are defined in the spleen for that individual. So for instance, in this particular body graph, there would be an amplification of the fears of the gate 32 and also the gate 18, and we'll talk about what they mean in just a few minutes. And when somebody has an undefined spleen where there's absolutely no gates that are defined or hanging gates, they can be somebody who is fearless or somebody who is full of fear. It's really dependent on the conditioning and the environment that they grew up with, and also what else is in the body graph. As well as having potentially stronger fears, someone with an open spleen doesn't have the fixed nature of the spleen that talks about the now or acting in the moment. And for this reason, people with an open spleen can hold on to things longer, including fears, which means that they can hold on to relationships, jobs, material things, as well as fears long after their expiration dates. And it also means that the fears of someone with an undefined spleen can be more life-altering or feel stronger in relation to those who have a defined spleen. As I already alluded, when you have a defined spleen, your fears can potentially feel less of a big deal. Of course, that's all relative to what else is in the chart, as well as the conditioning that someone experiences as they grow up. Now that we have a rough idea about what the spleen is and the differences between being defined or undefined, let's talk about what exactly the fears of the spleen are and how they can show up in your life. And I know I've already talked a lot already, but one more thing. Before we move forward, you have to know that the best part of the fears of the spleen is that they're meant to be pushed through. In fact, it's the only place in the body graph where the just do it motto actually works, because the theory is that the more times you push through the fears of the splenic gates, the less power the fear has over you. A key word with the gate 48 is inadequacy. And just as it sounds, the fears of this gate are all about not knowing enough, not learning enough, and in reality, not really feeling that you are enough. At its core, it's the fear of not having the right information to navigate the future. So people with this energy can buy every program that promises new knowledge and cling to the logic that whatever they learn will fill their endless hunger to know everything there is to know. The hope is that it will quell the fear that resides within them. And as long as the program lasts and the information is fresh, there is a sense of security. But when the program concludes, the emptiness returns, consuming them, and then another search for the next new thing and the next new piece of information or knowledge comes into play. This quest for knowledge can lead to someone who quite literally can be addicted to learning, because there can be an underlying feeling that if they know enough, they'll be prepared for whatever comes their way. But the only caveat here is that just as the I Ching name for the gate suggests, it's called the well, the search for knowledge can be endless, and if we look into a well, we can't see what lies within it and how very much we already know or how really deep it is. This uncertainty about the future and someone's ability to handle it can lead people to dogma and fixed beliefs that will give them the illusion of order and preparedness, yet all the while, they still feel fear bubbling up inside of them and a voice that screams in their head that they just don't know enough and that they're not prepared. Alternatively, there are those who use their knowledge to manipulate the fears of others while hiding their own feelings of inadequacy behind words of, I know, I have the answers that you need, but you need to come to me and receive the key that will unlock your fears. These self-proclaimed gurus who know everything are everywhere, and they're always promising the same thing, to give you the answers and the knowledge that only they know. Yet every system and every program always falls short, and it gets to the point where people will hold themselves back from sharing whatever they know and essentially who they are, from not applying for a job that they're not ready for, or to not taking a certification test because they need a little more time to study. In the end, the fear can cause a self-imposed block to their future. And if there's a piece of information that will set you free, it's this. The sense of security that you're striving for may never come, and the delays you place in your life path will probably never end, and that today, not tomorrow, is the day to step into your life. And really trust that you know enough. And even if you don't believe it, push through those feelings, push through the doubt, and trust that you have what you need. And believe, truly believe, you will have the information that you need when you need it. And don't get lost in the spinning wheel of a computer screen that hasn't loaded yet. Refresh and see the truth that every time you push through your anxiety and take a chance, an answer will always emerge just at the right moment in your life. And every time you step into the light and show the world what you know, it will get easier. And the inadequacy and feelings of not being enough will be seen for what they are, illusions. So we already know that these gates are connected with fear. So of course the gate 57 is connected to fear too. And this fear is the fear of the unknown and of what might be coming in the future. The gate 57 is considered to be one of the most connected gates of the human design system, or one of the most psychic gates. Yet it can still leave you uncertain and unable to believe in the intuitive hunches that you get. Because what definitive proof do you have that your intuition is valid? In today's world, science and logic rule, and people who give value to gut feelings and inner knowing are considered an oddity. And the question that is invariably directed at the person who has a knowledge that can't be proven is, how do you know that what you're saying is true? 99% of the time, your answer is going to be, I don't know. And soon there's this uncertainty about what you thought you knew. And then comes a notion that you've imagined it all, and of course it's not real. And anyway, who wants to be different? Alternatively, there can be an inner defiance of what you know, where you try to shift your reality. So what you saw happening is no longer true. So in reality, you try to sabotage your future and do something different that will disrupt the outcome that you actually saw. But what if instead you embraced this energy and saw that you had a gift for reading people, and that its power is so immense that just the sound of someone's voice can give you an intuitive hit about who they are? And in reality, every time you allow your intuitive hunches to flow, to see what the future might bring and understand that precognition is a gift, not a curse, it gets easier. The more you allow your inner knowing to show you the way, you might actually see that it's not as scary as you imagined, and maybe in truth the future might be better than you thought it would be. And before you know it, you'll learn to disentangle your feelings from your intuition, and then you can realize the beauty of this seeming superpower that can help guide you through your life in a way that only people with your gift can be guided. When you carry the energy of the gate 44, you can have a sense of smell that is unparalleled. In fact, you can even smell when things are off. Another ability that you might possess is the ability to see patterns of the past repeating themselves. So you had a bad relationship or a friend betrayed you, and you draw in on yourself because you're certain that whatever you went through will happen again, and you're determined to not get hurt again. And if that means you always hold yourself back, never allowing yourself to care, then so be it. So fear of intimacy can become a reality for you. Alternatively, you might always find what you're looking for: people who will betray you, lie to you, you name it, it all comes to the same thing. You find the exact people who will repeat the painful patterns of the past, and once again, you'll be hurt and wondering why you ever trusted that things could get better. And how you break the pattern and the fear that you will never find the right people, the right jobs, or the right situations is to understand that there's something different out there for you, and that this ability that you have can, instead of being used to repeat old patterns, can allow you to find a brand new life pattern. And knowing that just as easily as you can smell something wrong, you can smell something right. And you can finally break the pattern and the toxic relationships that seem to have followed you up until now. When you see the truth that you can size someone up better than you know, you'll understand that you have the power to decide who you let into your inner circle. And also, those who are better left alone. When you see your ability and that you're valuable enough to have the correct people in your life, you'll finally understand that you deserve better people than those people who you've allowed into your life. Or that hiding away from interacting with the world won't make you safe. It will make you unhappy. And when you start to allow worthy people to enter your sphere, you'll see that happiness is not just a word, it's really a state of being, and it all starts with seeing the light. that you, like everyone else in the world, deserve to have a healthy relationship where you are respected and loved for just being you. With the rise of social media and images of the lavish and most times excessiveness of wealth, we have pushed the energy of the Gate 32 to the forefront, where we see money as the only goal worth fighting for. There's nothing inherently wrong with money. It's a tool, a system that has purpose. But when we equate our value as people to how much we have in the bank, then that's when the energy of the Gate 32 shows its dark side. And the concept that you're a failure because you haven't made enough money, or you're better than others because you have, rears its ugly head. When money becomes a tool that holds your value, it's easy to see others who make less than you as people who didn't work as hard as you, people who are lazy, people who are not your people. And the concept that they're not really the same as you becomes easier to believe. And when we see others as less than us, there's a real potential for abuse of the power that vast amounts of money affords us. Big business rules and who cares about the little people, I get what I need, can be a mantra that becomes your new reality. Alternatively, there can be a sense that there's no point in even trying because the fear of failure is too monumental, and the list of goals and dreams and the things that you wanted in your life gets further and further away from your reality because you start to believe that you can't have anything more than what's right in front of you. There are so many ways that this energy can go wrong, but one way that it can go right, and that is to create your own dreams. To see the world from your vantage point, to create small plans and strategies to meet those goals and give the opportunities time to grow. To see what's in front of you and understand that what's right here and now may not exactly be what you want in your life, but it's the best choice for today. And also know that your dreams rest on the other side of the opportunities that you take today. And also, every step you take forward brings you to a new place, a place that's closer to your dreams. Because the best part of this energy is that when you get in touch with the essence of it, you'll be able to really see the right path to take that will lead you to a place you might only have dreamed about. And what you'll discover is that instinctively, you have a gift for investing in the right people, the right opportunities, the right stepping stone toward your future. And that as soon as you see your value as an individual, regardless of how much money you have or don't have, you will have opened the oyster and the pearl of success will be waiting for you to take it. Because at the end of the day, you've worked hard, you've believed in yourself, and you, just like anyone else in the world, deserve your own unique brand of success. When you have the Gate 18 defined, no one judges you as much as you judge yourself. In fact, everyone does everything better than you. And if you want proof, all you need to do is open Instagram and see how inferior you are to everyone else. And no matter how much you try, you can't ever be as good as everybody else, so why bother? And even if you do try, you always come up to the same conclusion. You're lacking, you'll never be good enough, and you're never going to be perfect enough. Alternatively, you can criticize with the best of them. You can disrespect people in authority knowing that they're less than you. You can gossip and point out every issue and flaw that others have, or have an inflated sense of a superiority, because for a little while, it gives you that illusion of being powerful, and that little voice that screams in your head that you're not even close to good enough is drowned out. And you let someone else experience what you feel, and it feels good. Until, of course, it doesn't, and then before you know it, you're back in that space of feeling bad about who you are. There could be a need to improve the latest makeup, the most current plastic surgery technique, the newest workout routine, the latest diet will finally give you what you need: perfection. Now you can stay on that treadmill for life, cycling through all the negative feelings that run through your mind, or you can do something else. You can see the truth that perfection is an illusion, and instead of criticizing yourself or others, you can do something different. Begin to see that everybody is unique, including you, and that by demanding quality and a high standard for yourself, you'll see that the belittling conversations you have with yourself are beneath you. In fact, you are much better than the negative things that you say about yourself or others, and if you choose, you can heal the wounds that have made you ignore your own positive qualities. And truly, if there's anyone who can do the work to become a better version of you, one who respects yourself enough not to compare who you are with anyone else, it's you. And when you turn the page and see the world with new eyes, Maybe someday you'll share your story and your journey about how you decided to change your life. And instead of striving for perfection, you instead choose to be a version of yourself who can see all your imperfections. And in spite of all the things that seem pretty wrong, there's a lot that's right. And that your self-acceptance can finally lead you to the place where you can settle in and love yourself, flaws and all. Caring can take a toll on both those who are being cared for as well as those who are doing the caring. And here is the fear that we're going to talk about in the Gate 50. The fear of letting down the people who you love. As well as fear, there's an abundance of guilt found in this energy as well. This is strong tribal energy that infuses everyone in the vicinity with the whole concept of protecting those who are part of your tribe to the exclusion of all else. And if that means that you compromise and allow opportunities to pass you by because you need to honor your responsibilities, then so be it. In theory, responsibility is not a bad thing. In fact, it's the way our society measures maturity. But when your sense of responsibility crosses boundaries where you're doing everything for others, in fact, you're doing things that they can easily do for themselves, or actually shouldering the responsibilities of others believing that you're protecting them, then the energy of responsibility becomes something decidedly different and can become the stifling and overbearing mother who can't seem to let her children grow up, or a father who orders his family into submission. Codependence lives in the Gate 50, where the need to do for others becomes a way of controlling people because only you can do what needs to be done for them. Alternatively, there can be a rage against a system that can devolve into criminality, a rebellious nature, and corruption of every kind. It can manifest as a situation where when you attain a place of authority, you use it to belittle those you consider lower than you. It can be an authoritarian energy that feels the ends justify the means. At its very worst, it can show up as domestic violence, where one partner is deemed lower in the hierarchy of family and they're made to submit. And as much as there can be a sense of over-responsibility, there can be a lack of responsibilities for your actions where you walk through life using people as tools to be used, discarded, or walked over if necessary, because you know best. But when we see the beauty of this energy, the dynamic can change and we can step out of the artificial boundaries that we have created for ourselves. It's important to understand that belonging doesn't mean that you are assimilated into a group where you become nothing more but a means for others to get their needs. And the opposite is that everybody is their own entity and they are not here to be an extension of you and your needs, and that they are instead here to be themselves. And when we see that the tribe can exist where everyone is allowed the freedom to make their own decisions, to shoulder their own responsibility, and to be accountable for their actions, things get easier. And it's important to know that there will be days when you'll witness those who you love stumbling, and also days when you see them grow as they traverse the experiences of life, both positive and negative. And you too will grow when you respect yourself and others enough to allow them to be who they were meant to be. And with this newfound freedom that you both have, you'll have learned the value of trusting people to grow as they were intended to, and that love comes with finding the place in the middle where life plays the most beautiful melody. By definition, existential nihilism is a philosophical theory that life has no intrinsic meaning or value. With respect to the universe, existential nihilism suggests that a single human or even the entire human species is insignificant, without purpose, and unlikely to change in totality of existence. And herein is the crux of the shadow side of the Gate 28, which can be the fear that life has no purpose and that instead it's just a series of random events that have no meaning. And if we build on this idea, we can see that there can be a fear of death here as well. For some, it will be death in a literal sense of the word. For others, it will be the idea that you may never figure life out, or that you will die before you have a chance to live, or that you will die before you realize your purpose, the very reason for your existence. When you have this energy, you can mitigate the fears by clinging to organized religions and beliefs that the spirit never dies. God, the afterlife, and a multitude of theories about what happens when we die have been born out of this energy. Some will find solace in that view, while others will look to science in the belief that there is some magical way to prolong the life, the long sought after elixir of youth and everlasting life. Aging is also feared because it takes us one step closer to that which terrifies us, our inevitable death. Pondering the meaning of life can be like a sickness that grabs at the soul and never lets go, and we spiral in on the idea that it's all meaningless. Everything is just a mind game that gives us the impression that we have a choice in this reality. Even if deep inside we know that there is no choice, we will eventually cease to exist. There can be a withdrawal from everything that feels uncertain or anything that might induce fear, and a cocooning of the self from harm at the cost of living a full life. Alternatively, there can be an attraction to risk-taking, an attempt to mask your inner fears, because the most scary place is the inner silence and stillness. And if you're going to die, well, at least you'll be doing something that exhilarates you and makes you feel alive. It's not coincidental that this is the last gate we're talking about, because ultimately, some people will say that the gate 28 is one of the most difficult energies to carry. Admittedly, this energy may not be easy, but if we allow it to be, it can be rewarding. But what we need to know right from the beginning is that only when we go into the darkness can we find the light. The secret of the gate 28 is to embrace the pleasure and the pain, because in reality, that's what life is all about. And what it means for somebody with this energy is that you take the right risks, push through the right obstacles, and embrace the difficult paths that will lead you to where you're meant to be, your true destiny. And also, there's a need to surrender your whole being into the mystery of life. And when the pressure to figure out becomes too much, you can sink into the mundaneness of life, the everyday tasks, the things that we have to do. And for a little while, you'll give your mind a break from the whys of your existence. And when you give yourself a break, you have a chance to evolve, for things to fall into place and for you to understand it more. The true gift of this energy is knowing with your very being that all the obstacles and bumps in the road showed you and everyone else who knows you that you can travel the rocky terrains and have obstacles in your path. And it also shows you that even though you slowed down, you didn't stop. And that every obstacle and every bump in the road taught you something more about who you are and what you're meant to do. And every once in a while, you'll have an opportunity to dip your hand into the sea of eternity, and for a minute or two, you'll find a few drops of the meaning of your existence. Well, that's all I have for today, and I hope this video has helped you discover a little more about yourself. And as I always say, the more you know about yourself, the better your life can be. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to get the latest of the information that I'm putting out there. So for now, I'll say goodbye, and I'll see you again soon.